Call the meeting to order. This is the regular City Council meeting for Minnetrista of August 3rd, 2026. First order, I'd like to remind everybody to turn their phones on airplane mode or silent, and so they don't disrupt the meeting. And second, would you please join me for Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So welcome everyone this evening. Thank you for coming, and also for those watching on YouTube later on. I'm going to start with some introductions. I'm Lisa Whalen, I'm the mayor, and to my left are council members Peter Vickery, Claudia Lacey, and Brian Govern. Absent this evening is Kathleen Refkin, and then we have on the end, we have our city engineer with WSB is Allison Fauski, and then we have Gary Peters, who is our public works director. To my right, we have Jasper Krugel, our city administrator, Brian Grimm, who is our finance director, David Abel, who is our community development director, and then we have Sarah Sansala here with us tonight. She's Kennedy and Graven, our legal counsel, and then on the end we have Chief of Police Craig Squires. So with that, are there any changes or additions to the agenda? If there are none, is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Thank you, Mr. Vickery. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Govern. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor signify with aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes 4-0. So we have a couple of special presentations this evening. This is, do you want to kind of line it up or?
Yeah, I sure can. We have kind of a continuation of our employee appreciation milestone events. So we had a few folks come in at the last meeting, and we have a few more that weren't able to attend that meeting. I don't know if you want me to go through them. And we have Craig Squires, who's here, who's present over there. He's celebrating 25 years of service with the city of Minnetrista this year. Trevor Barrett, who's not here tonight, he's at 10 years. Spencer Koch is at 5 years. He is not here, I believe. And then we have Jake Terrace for 5 years here, and he is present tonight. So we have certificates for you all that are here present. And then I think we'd like to get a photo op with everybody.
Okay.
So I just want to say it's great to have you both on board. I know you've been here 25 years. You just recently stepped in as the chief, but you were ready and willing to do that. So it was a very nice transition from when Paul hired last year. So great to have you continue with that. Hopefully you'll stay here for another 25. And thank you also for 5 years. That's huge. And of course, we know how important it is to have a public safety department, one that's great, which obviously you're part of that team. And we really appreciate it. And we're so glad that you're here. And you're going to put in another 15, right? Someday you might be. So thank you very much for your participation.
You guys want to get in a little bit?
All right, so next on the agenda are, let's see, hold on, is persons to be heard. We don't have anybody signed up, so we'll move on to consent agenda. Are there any you wish to remove? Hearing none, then the consent agenda items include approval of our work session meeting minutes from July 20th, 2026, approve our city council regular meeting minutes from July 2026, a resolution to approve claims. D is an ordinance of 508 for lift assist ordinance, and E is a resolution authorizing the publication of ordinance number 508 by title and summary. F is a resolution to accept bids and award the contract for our sewer lining project. G is a resolution to approve a side yard setback variance at 5800 Lakeview Drive. And H is a resolution to approve a simple subdivision and variance at 3780 and 3790 Enchanted Lane. I is a resolution to approve a quote for decommissioning and sealing of well number 5. J is accept the MDH grant for the decommissioning of well number 5. And K is amend our SCADA services agreement with AE2S. Is there a motion to approve A through K consent agenda items?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Lacy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Governor, maybe someday, right? All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes, and you folks are good to go. So next, we don't have any public hearings this evening. We have some business items. First, we have a ordinance that we talked about briefly and asked staff to bring back. It's a data center moratorium, and I'll hand that over to David.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council. That is correct. It is an ordinance that establishes a moratorium on all new data centers that would come in for application for the city of Minnetrista. Just to be clear, we don't have an application in there. There has not been any submitted to us, but our council, seeing what's happening in the metro area and in our area, seeing these things pop up and some of the issues that it's caused, did the right thing in terms of ordering staff, asking staff to bring a moratorium forward. If adopted tonight, what this does is it puts a pause on any application that were to come in, and it allows us as staff to work with you, City Council, to examine the situation and establish rules and regulations, if you will, if an application were to come in the future. This will last for 1 year, and staff will be working on gathering information and probably having some discussions with council at future work sessions to figure out what direction we'd like to go in terms of coming up with a new ordinance that puts conditions and regulations on data centers as they come in the future. So in addition to the ordinance that's before you this evening, if you do pass that, we do have a resolution that would authorize for publication of the ordinance by title and summary. As you can see, it is a lengthy ordinance, so it's probably in the best interest to do that by title and summary this evening. We can stand for any questions.
Thank you, David. Any questions? Again, we're just kind of preempting, if you will, any potential applications, and I believe we can have this in place up to 18 months. I'm sorry. Well, only 12 months? Okay, 12 months. So we'll have to be looking at this over the course of the next 12 months, obviously. So any other questions?
Questions, but a few comments. I actually support the study, but not necessarily a moratorium. I think there's a significant opportunity for first movers in the data center area. I think putting a moratorium would essentially take us out of the running. If we look, there's good data centers and there's bad data centers. There's a lot of kind of bluster out there on social media, but there are good data centers. Most people don't even know they're in their area. And I think that Madam Mayor, you and the council we're more than capable of assessing if there is a data center proposal to ensure that it is consistent with the nature of our community and it meets the needs of our residents with there. Because my understanding is that currently there's only one industrial zoned lot in Minnetrista, and so if there was a proposal for a data center, we would have to rezone something else, which would give us, in my opinion, plenty of opportunity to vet any proposed data centers from that. Secondly, really the risks and externalities. So that would be any kind of pollution, noise, anything, increased power bills from a data center is very similar to any kind of heavy industrial thing that would go in there. So I don't really see data centers as a unique, as posing a unique threat to the character of Minnetrista beyond any other heavy manufacturing for that. So I'm not really sure why we would single out data centers as opposed to just any heavy industrial. So given that, and I would oppose a moratorium, but I do support the creating a study to create a better, more objective framework for how we would assess that in the future.
So the moratorium will actually allow us to do exactly what you're talking about. It will give us an opportunity to assess and put limitations and guardrails on it. Currently, if we were to get an application in at any given time, regardless of where they would want to build, we would have to accept that application and we would have to go through the process. And that's what I'm trying to kind of put the brakes on for right now, because we don't have those guardrails in place. And we've never done a study. We don't have anything in our ordinances that says what they can and can't do. So that study that you're talking about, we would be doing that with this during this moratorium, and it would ensure us that we wouldn't have to act on an application, because once we get an application in, we are by law, we must then act on that application. So
That makes sense.
Yeah.
so we're going to study it, and we don't have to take 12 months. We can take 6 months, or we can take 8 months, or whatever time frame we want to take. And in that time, we're going to study and put those guardrails or those limitations in place, so that when an application does come in, then we can say, here's our ordinance, and this is what you have to abide by. And I think that's really what we want to do, because I'm not interested in having 100 people here yelling at us. And
You
that's
have more than that.
That's what will happen. And so I think this is just preempting that. So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I think a moratorium is really important too.
Okay.
Agreed. I
Okay.
think it's a very big hot topic, and it would require, we're going through a lot right now just with what we're doing, and a year goes fast, so I would like a year to think about everything.
And to work on those
Work on those.
guardrails and
Mhm.
limitations. So Sarah, just a quick question for you. I'm certain you reviewed this, and it's probably your handiwork in this, so you're good to go on this? Okay, thank you. So then, any other comments? Hearing none, then, is there a motion to approve ordinance number 509, which is the data center moratorium?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Lacy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Vickery. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay?
One opposed, that would be Mr. Councilmember Govern. So then, resolution number 87-26, which is authorizing the publication of ordinance number 509 by title and summary. Is there a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Victory. Victory. Okay. Second, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Govern. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. 4-0. And then ordinance number 510, which is related to the city council pay. I'll let Jeff take that.
So Madam Mayor, members of City Council, before you is an ordinance that was developed. The framework was developed at our last work session. What it would do is it would move our City Council pay from $400 a month to $500, and our mayor pay from $500 to $600, effective January 1, 2027. Stand for any questions.
Any questions? We brought this up at our work session. We looked at other communities to see how what they pay, and I'd be kind of in the middle, or, right there. All right. So then is there a motion to approve ordinance number 510, city council pay?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Victory. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mr. Govern. Further questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify with aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes 4-0. So next, we're going to have a budget discussion. I'm going to hand that over to Brian. Mr. Grimm?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. And got a PowerPoint that's probably 10 slides that should summarize the 25 or so that was in the packet, which I'm sure everyone's read through. But it's going to hit the highlights tonight. So this is our first look at the 2027. Sort of the first more detailed look. I guess back in June we had talked about some of the overlying factors, or even just highlights of some of the things that we're looking at for the 2027 budget. And this presentation will pretty much reaffirm a lot of those items and give some more detail to that. So basically, we're looking at having that preliminary levy, for the end of September. So we've got a few chances to talk about it tonight, in a couple weeks here, and then in September again to adopt the levy, which is the maximum levy for the year for 2027. And that's certified to the county by that end of September, so they can send out the truth and taxation statements in November. As far as timeline, tonight, we'll probably maybe talk again at work session in a couple weeks here, I guess, or depending, I guess, what council directs. And then I think we have a couple meetings in September, or the September 9th and the 21st. We could look at adopting the preliminary levy. Each year we try to look at the different service levels. We look at our capital equipment plan, make sure our fund balance reserves are okay, and then funding our roads. So those are some of the main categories that are financed by the tax levy. Obviously, where our water rates and stuff come from, our water fund activity comes from our water rates and so on, the utility rates. But this is for our taxes for next year. This one more get into the numbers, and I think basically this summarizes. I think it's like page 135 or so of the packet, but if you want to see it in front of you, but the general fund levy has the biggest increase, and that's to fund obviously the services for public safety, public works, administration, and that also we'll talk about later in the PowerPoint. Trying to keep our fund balance at that 40% level that we have set as our fund balance policy. CIP plan we have going up a decent amount there. And that's basically, we have some items that we're looking at as far as a record management software in the police department, looking at potentially a new ERP or finance software system to try to fund that and get that in place over the next couple of years. So there's some items there under that CIP levy where that's pushing that dollars up. The debt fund has a potential equipment certificate as well as adding on the 2026 roads. So that's where you'll see the increase there. And then the roads piece, even though, it's staying similar, but we have done some additional debt levies with our roads projects in the last 2023, 26. We do have special assessments coming in. So that road fund is still pretty healthy at over $2 million balance. So that basically, when you add those all together, you have a gross levy of about 8.75 million over this year's levy of 7.83. So it's about a little under, about 11, 12% increase there. You can see summarized there. This chart tries to bring everything together as far as it gives the tax levy on the top line. It's going from, as I stated, that basically 0.7 million to 8.6. Sort of gives the trend on the general fund reserves. 2022 was still spending down a lot of the COVID dollars, so that's where you'll see the dollars going down there. 2023 was general fund went back up because we had some of the apartments and the grocery store building permits coming in, so we had some additional activity there. And you can see the last few years we've sort of been having a pretty balanced budget, keeping our fund balance percentage in that basically low to mid 40%. Tax impacts, I think that's pretty much what everyone wants to see, or when it boils down to it, is what would this proposed levy do for some different property values in the city. And there's a few different columns there and rows where basically shows sort of a lower, medium, and our medium home's about 650,000 or so, and then so that's where the 450, 650, and 850,000 amounts are there. So you can see if those property values or properties had about a 3.5% valuation increase, you can see that what the different annual adjustment would be. The taxes there on that $450,000 home, it would be about $6 a month. The $650,000 home would be $120 for a year, about $10 a month, and then so on for the about $160 for the home that's pushing more the $900,000. Anyone have any questions so far, or as far as? Oh, it's just
So far, no, go ahead.
Okay. You can see, I guess last point. I'm gonna go back. Sorry. Our tax rate's still pretty low compared to some of our neighbors who are 21, 22%. I think everyone's probably, at least we've touched on that before, that our tax rate is still pretty good there, so. Couple slides here, more just, I guess to reinforce the green, slice of pie is the city's share. So if you have a $650,000 home and you're in the West Tonka School District, basically your city taxes are about $1,450, about 22% of your total bill of 65, 67. So the county is the biggest piece of the pie in this case, and then the school, and then the city. So just to, I guess, remind everyone that if they're, in this case, 6,500 you're paying in taxes, about 1,450 is coming to the city.
Do we have an idea of what the county is planning on increasing their taxes?
You heard him, Jasper? I guess.
If I may, it's varied quite a bit. I think it's around 12%. But I think they're still working through the process just like we are. So, but it's much higher than what they've done in the past. I think tied to some of that Medicare or Medicaid.
Medicaid.
Things that got shifted to them from the federal government. So I can look into that a little bit more to see once where they're kind of settling in at and get back to
I
you.
was just curious because obviously we're independent of them, but when the average Minnetrista city resident opens their tax bill, they don't. I don't think they look to see what percentage goes where.
But I would also mention, obviously, we need to look at our budget and what we want or need, I should say, because we have not a lot of control over the counties. Other than, of course, you can call your county commissioner and express your concerns. But yeah.
Brian, what are you projecting for increase in employee costs and salaries and
So what's
wise?
plugged into the budget right now, this preliminary one, is probably between 4.5% to 6%. And I know I've worked with or got the summaries from Jasper as far as the union contract proposals and some of the personnel committee discussions. So pretty much is in that range for
That's in your.
That's in there. It's about basically between 4.5% and 6%, depending on which bargaining unit and if you're in a union or non-union, but in that range. So not too big a difference, but like difference between the different groups, I guess. Or
Okay, so we're all on the same page there.
Yep. Yeah. So just to get everybody up to speed, we're negotiating with 4 unions right now for 2027. We really kicked off and gotten pretty far along with one of the police unions. There's 2 more that will likely follow shortly after we get the first one settled. And then the public works group, they just engaged last week. So, and we're going to meet this week and kind of go over wages and comp. And that's the big thing. Their request sheet is less than 1 page long. So that's good. We have only a couple things to work through.
Good.
Yeah.
So with that, what I would say too is we should be looking at, and I read the info in our info packet, but and I know what the recommendation or what the personnel committee is suggesting. However, I feel like it would really be unfair to give a whole lot less to our admin union people when, and more to union just because they're union. So I think we need to look at that when we finalize the union pays and the union increases to see how that shakes out, because then I think we need to do something competitive for everybody. So it's across the board similar. And the other thing too is I did notice in there, it said that the personnel committee, and nothing against the personnel committee, sorry, but that they discussed fund balance strategy. And I don't think that belongs in the personnel committee. I think that belongs at the council level. And I think we need to talk about where we want to have that fund balance and the strategy that we're going to take moving forward. So maybe what we need to do, also reviewing the personnel policies and things like that, maybe we need to look at our personnel policy or handbook or something, and we need to define what the personnel committees charge, or how do you say, what their charges or what their tasks are so that we don't overlap or that we don't kind of get off in tangents. Because I think it's really important that certain things are a whole council discussion versus just a committee discussion. And I think the fund balance policy or strategies, those are definitely a council discussion. So if, I don't know if we wanted, when was the last time that we updated it? You know?
So there's a couple things going on. So in our city code, the personnel committee is established and kind of it tasks the personnel committee with doing certain things. And then it also alludes that there should be a section in our employee handbook that defines kind of the bylaws of the personnel committee. As far as I've been able to locate, I have not been able to locate that in our personnel policy. So it's probably something we should, work on maybe throughout 2026 to establish, just those kind of bylaws. And I'll just say from a personal note, I'm getting some city council members saying certain things should be on the personnel committee, and then some are saying that it shouldn't. So I'd personally like that guidance as far as, what we specifically talk about at various times of the year. And then if there's any question, we just bring it to the council, and then the council can then potentially choose to kick it back to the personnel committee or form another committee or something, if there's something specific. But we don't really have the framework, I think, at least as far back as I could see in the different variations of the employee handbook. So it might be a good exercise just to have the conversation at council.
Well, if I may, everything affects the budget. So I get what you're saying, but it does ultimately impact, what we're going to have as a budget, a levy. So I think, I don't think the committee was usurping any, responsibility of the council, but it has to be kind of on our mind, when we're thinking about these things. And then I'd say the other thing was that we were looking at competitive cities and how, what they pay versus, what we pay, to make sure that we're in line, but, not overly generous. So I think that's kind of where the committee was headed. So just so you're aware.
Okay, yeah, no, and I get that. I just want to make sure that, see, I guess the way I view it, and I could be wrong, but I would like the personnel committee to look at what is needed and then bring it back to the council and say, here's what we think we need in order to retain our good employees and in order to be competitive in the job market today. This is what we think we need. And then the council says, well, okay, but that doesn't fit into our budget. Or yes, it does fit in. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So I think I guess I'd prefer that and I could be wrong on this. Other opinions are fine too, but I think I'd rather have them say, we looked at the data, we did the comparisons, we're looking at how we can stay competitive and how we can stay on top of this, versus we're going to now talk about fund balance strategies. Because that, I think, then it comes to the council, and then the council says, okay, but how does that fit into our fund balance? How does that fit into our levy? How does this work? And then the council decides how we're going to move forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, and I think we've done a lot of that. Maybe
Yeah.
Jasper could speak to that too, but I think we did follow that track. And but you're right. We did discuss the budget too, because obviously that's a concern.
I'm not saying the personnel committee should put blinders on, but I want the personnel committee to really make the decisions without consideration for the budget so that they bring it back and then we decide whether it's, you know what I'm saying?
I do.
It's so that you're not skewing your recommendation. I don't know, it might.
It does. And I'm partially to blame for bringing some of this stuff because I kind of set the agenda for the personnel committees and I try to do my best judgment of what goes to council and the personnel committee. So, the fund balance policy was something that I got some feedback that we should bring to the personnel, but I think this is just a healthy discussion about what goes to the personnel committee and what goes to council. And I think you can always use the personnel committee as the backboard to send stuff back to,
Right.
So, but I think it would be a good exercise just to have the conversation to establish kind of those, I don't know if you call them bylaws or
Framework or
framework,
whatever.
for the committee itself.
Okay.
which we can talk about in a future work session if that's something that we want to do.
And the other thing I think we need to decide and focus on too is because I know this is going to be part of the union contract discussions is the benefit package. So I don't know if we decide that now or if we decide it, after the union contracts are done. At what point do we decide that? Because I know there's been some talk, because I know currently it's 1,500 for families and 900 for individuals, and that hasn't been adjusted in 8 years. And so there's some discussion about adjusting that. So do we discuss that now and adjust it, or as a council, so that moving forward, they have because it should be the same for the unions? Or do they just debate it with the unions and then bring it back to the council?
I mean, Peter's privy to all this information. The unions are pretty much bringing the benefit package to our attention, and that's one of their higher priority items that they want to negotiate. So I think a lot of the union contracts will hinge on the benefit package and the cafeteria benefit amount. And we've done a lot of research, and I'm gonna send an email, I think, out to the personnel committee tomorrow with some of the additional survey data that we've compiled over the last couple of weeks. So, but it's something that probably will make or break all of the contracts, I think, at this point in time, because they're all the police, they're talking to each other, and the public works are talking to the police. So I think they're all prioritizing our benefit package and want to at least discuss it.
And yeah,
So do we want to, so Brian, what did you add into this current budget levy? I mean, where are we at with that? Because that, I want to see if they come in and say, we want, $5,000, whatever they want, and it's like way outside those limits, then you might as well just say no.
so
But-
talking with Jasper and stuff there, for just the preliminary budget, I used 2,000 for family and 1,000 for single, just
Okay.
based on trying to get the right spot. How high can you adjust it versus, it hasn't been adjusted like it's been said for 8 years, but you can't jump maybe from A to, might have to go A to B to C versus just A to C, because, even if the averages are, families 2,200 and singles 1,100, maybe it's got to take a couple years to get there or something.
Right.
So that's what I used for this budget was 2 and 1, I guess. Basically it's 2,000 for family, 1,000 for single, which is basically 500 more for family and 100 more for single.
Right. So council, what are your thoughts? Until you come back and see what the unions say, or?
I mean,
In my experience, that's typically the union ends up driving what the benefit discussion is.
Okay.
And so I would think that would probably be when we give priority to.
Okay,
And I think we're in the ballpark where if there would be some upward pressure, it wouldn't be or whatever, it would be able to incorporate into the budget. We're not, I don't think, like hundreds of dollars off, or how do you want to say, we're not, or 25% off or something, I think it would be something that would be able to be, worked
okay.
into.
So in other words, kind of sit back, wait and see what the union contracts, what we can negotiate with the union contracts.
Yeah.
I mean, is that?
Well, the other issue is, do employees that don't take our insurance here at the city, say they have a spouse that has a plan that's more favorable, do we pay them out or not, or do we give them some? So there, you can kind of see why that quickly devolves into
Sure.
talking about the budget. But anyway, so that's another factor that.
But that would be a policy, I think, right? I mean, we'd have to develop a policy as to what the city will do.
Yeah, and I've been working with the personnel committee on the opt-out policy, and I think you guys want some more information on that. But I mean, if you want to know more about it, I can kind of just regurgitate some of the framework of it. But it's something that, and the reason it's been brought up is some employees have come to me and said, this would be nice if I could do this because my spouse has
Better coverage.
and I have an opportunity to hop on their plan. But under our current policy, we force the employee to sign up for our health insurance,
Okay.
which is a remnant of a cooperative insurance program that we were part of that required all employees to sign up.
But now it's different.
Now it's different. Since 2023, we've been on the open market, the ACA open market,
Okay.
small group plan, which doesn't require all employees to sign up. So there is an opportunity to offer an opt-out. The general framework that I kind of discussed with the personnel committee was it would be 80% of whatever we determined the single coverage would be. So, and I break down, it's actually in the info packet if you're interested to look at it, but break down, the potential cost savings if somebody would jump onto, from family to opting out, what that would save the city in a year, or from single to opting out. The opt-out would cost the city less in each case, if they would do it. It's just a matter of what that price point
What that
is.
price point
It's
is.
80%, 70%, something like
Yeah.
that. But, and generally, there's some, I'll use myself for an example because my wife, I have the opportunity to hop onto hers. But it would cost me $350 a month for me to be able to do that because my current employer, the city of Minnetrista, offers me health insurance. So, there's probably a lot of those nuances that are available. So I think it's important, like if they do hop off to get better insurance, there's some, financial means
Some
that
financial-
could help. And
It would be a win-win situation then. The only question I would have, and you'd have to look at it, and the personnel committee can figure this out, but at what point, how many people can opt out before we're still covered? So that would be the only question.
that right now, that does not matter. The one thing that, a consideration is what if we go back to a cooperative? We
Right.
would have to, have them come back onto our plan no matter what, which is, essentially a conversation when you do the opt out, they sign an agreement saying that if at any time the city changes their plan, you might be required to hop back on, which
Okay.
might be, disruptive to that if you like a plan that I keep pointing at Gary because he's,
Yeah, right.
but if you like that plan, like you want to stay on your spouse's plan, maybe it's better. And that might be disruptive. So I think to me, it's all about, offering the employee the best opportunity to get the best healthcare. It's a very volatile, industry right now, and there's a lot of nuance, and we're maybe not always going to be able to offer the best plan out there just because of the price point.
So you're going to bring that back to the personnel committee and they'll come back with a policy, right? Oh, there's two things. They're going to work on a policy for opting out and what the person would get if they opt out. And then the other thing, we're going to wait and see what the unions want or end up getting, if you will, for health benefit, the dollar amount. And then you'll bring that, and then we'll hopefully be able to match that for all employees. That's always been our historically, that's what we've done.
Yeah.
So that everybody gets the same.
Yep. And I would just circling back to the opt out, I think we didn't really necessarily come up with if we were going to move forward with it or not. So if there's, any, I don't know if there's.
Well, I think if it's going to save the city some money, why wouldn't we? I mean, and then if you allow people to opt out and they opt out because they can get cheaper coverage, better coverage elsewhere, why wouldn't we do that?
Couldn't that affect our rate if we have fewer people we're buying for?
So, no, not if we're in the ACA small group plan. That's just an open market and it's a set rate no matter what. Once we get above 50 FTEs, then it changes to a larger group plan, which then your experience levels come into effect. But right now, because we're less than 50 FTEs, we're at 43 technically authorized. And it'll be some time before we would get to 50, I imagine.
It'll be quite a while.
That's not something, there could be some regulation changes and things like that we're not, we don't get to say in. But right now, if it stays the same, then that risk is pretty low.
So, okay, so I think you have some direction, is that?
Yeah, I would say I'm looking at Peter because that means that, I think at our next meeting, we'll talk a little bit more about the opt-out and see what the group thinks is appropriate. And then we'll bring potentially something back for the whole group to look at.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Yeah, so I just had a couple slides to cap up. I think, this was just basically that same slide we just saw with the city of Waconia School District. So you can just see the tax bill. It's now 7,600 just because I think some of the projects and things they have going on.
In Waconia, yeah,
So pretty much it drives our percentage under 20%.
right.
People that live in Waconia, so really, don't hear too much from like Hunter's Crest or anything about our city. We don't really hear too much from too many people around the city about our city taxes being too high. At least I don't. Or
I have another question. So when you do this chart, how much of the 22%, 20%, whatever it is, how much of that is salaries? How much is it 50%?
Usually that's a pretty good guide, is that, the personnel services, salaries and benefits is usually,
Around
50,
50%?
maybe slightly higher or whatever. So, but, yeah, no, I think that's pretty good.
Okay,
guideline.
because that would be a nice, I think, when you bring this back next time, bring back a chart with how much we're spending. I know public safety is almost 50%, so it can't be quite 50, but, just do us a chart so we
Yeah.
can kind of see that.
Yeah, and there's a couple different ways probably that you're referencing, Mayor. I mean, one's probably like where are dollars being spent? Like, yeah, public safety is usually 50%, and public, almost like.
But that includes salary.
Yeah. So
Okay,
there's almost be like a where, and then it's almost like a what type? Is it salaries and
Okay.
benefits? Is it supplies? Is it, maintenance, utility? Yeah, there's like almost groupings by what we call like object code, like,
I just think it'd be interesting. I mean, we don't, it's
Yeah.
neither here nor there necessarily, but I think it'd be interesting to find out what do we pay out in salaries? I mean, total. It'd just be interesting.
Sure.
Just in the general fund, because we can,
Yeah.
I just sent myself an email. Sorry about that.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so,
Okay.
yeah, then we pretty much just, on this slide had a pretty good, conversation on the labor contracts that are being negotiated as we speak, so
Okay.
that's gonna be a big piece, the salaries and benefits, and then, the capital equipment improvements, that was in the packet, as far as the, squads and financial software and, Gary had a replacement item in his CIP. So those are all items that, that departments have identified as needs to, provide services to the city at, to the best level.
Oops, sorry. Gotcha.
So yeah, and I know we usually talk about the payment management plan. So the plan there would be to leave it at the 400,000, knowing that we've done a couple of the new debt levies there. And then we've talked about the 40% for the fund balance policy there. So
Where are we going to be at, do you think?
I think right at 40% is, I didn't try to be that exact, but I mean, I plugged in like $150,000 surplus for 2026 based on that our building permits
Have
pretty
exceeded?
much is exceeded by 150,000. So I pretty much just
Yeah.
plugged that into, and hopefully that'll even go a little higher. There could be some expenditure type items that could, ebb and flow, but I'm
Right,
hoping we have a surplus of about 150, and then with our 2027 budget, it would keep us right at about 40% at the end of 2027.
okay.
So,
Yeah, I
and
don't,
obviously we'll, keep updating that over the
Right,
fall as far as
okay.
hopefully things keep trending in the right
Mhm.
direction where, that surplus can, be that, at least at that, if not better, so.
okay,
And I mean, this is, if I may, there's, we have a PTSD officer claim in, and that number's, the amount of money we've requested is like 115,000. And that's not included in the budget because we don't know if we're gonna get it or not. So if we get some of that, that'll help out with the surplus as
Yeah.
well. Just,
okay.
keep it in the back of your mind.
Mhm.
So yeah, so hopefully we
Okay.
get some good positive levers we can
Yes.
pull, or however you look at it, or bring in, so.
All right, good.
Yeah, and then I guess just the summary, we've talked about, this is the initial draft, levy option, so, wanted to get, I guess, council's feedback on the, the documents that were in the packet. Does the levy seem good? Did the general fund budget seem good? The equipment plan, roads, I guess, everything, and if anyone else had any other comments.
Well, it'd be nice if it was less than, be down to 11% would be, but, I guess, what I look at, and I know that, 11 or 12% is really high, but what I look at is what is the impact to a property owner? And if it's $6 a month or 120 a year, that seems reasonable. To me, I mean, most people could afford that. And, so I guess I look at what is our need? What do we really need? And how do we keep our city going forward like it's been going? So,
The nice thing is that, I know we've talked about it before, that, 11.7 percent is really under 10 when you look at that growth is really taking, 2.8, 3% of it. So for our existing residents, whether that gives any solace or not, I mean, really what's to the home that's
Right.
people that have been here, it's really probably more of a, 8, 9%, because, if we didn't have any growth, all the existing properties would be taking that 11, 12%. But when you have, 75, 100 new homes added to the pie, they take, a few percent of
Right,
that.
it's spread out more. Do you know what some of the preliminary levies are? We don't really know from surrounding communities. I know that one of them is pretty high. As surrounding
yeah, I
community.
You run the gamut, right? I think, if I may, our friends to the north, Corcoran, have been known to set the bar pretty high as far as the levies go lately, and I think they're kind of trending in that location or that same direction. But I think you'll see some in the 20 percentile, upper teens, 20s. You'll see some that are at 6. I know our neighbor that we surround is looking at a pretty high levy increase comparatively from what they generally do year to year. So I'm not sure where they're at preliminarily right now, but I mean, you're seeing a lot of movement. There isn't much of the 3 to 5% that I think was pretty standard pre-COVID, we'll say.
Yeah.
I think mostly the average is generally probably that 8 to 12%, I would say, with some outliers on the top end more so than on the bottom side.
Yeah.
And
But
even as far as looking at our total levy in this run was, 8.7 million. That's below 9 million. I think some of our neighbors are in the $9 to $10 million range, whether it's
That are similar, like.
that are similar with
I
Mound
think
and
Mound and Orono, I think are, yeah.
around.
I don't know where Shorewood is. Do you know?
I think sure it's pretty similar. They might be about what we
Yeah.
are slightly higher.
Okay.
So yeah, I'd say we are definitely probably on the middle to lower end from compared to our best comparables from what I
Okay.
would say. So
yeah, and if you remember back to the audit presentation, I mean, our per capita cost is probably the lowest in the area. So I think we're doing some things good. Not that we have to get up to the median, but I think optically, I think you can say that Minnetrista has low city taxes.
Yeah, and if, just to plant the seed, and we do communications on what the levy is, if you're able to break that out, like what's growth versus organic
Yeah, but-
increase, that would be awesome.
Good point. Yeah, good idea. Exactly.
okay, yeah, we try to.
Yeah, because I don't think people think about that. So that's, I think,
It'd be
really
different
good.
if we the city had, no new building permits,
Right.
then but that we do, we basically brings it under 10% for sure right off
Yeah.
the bat, so when that brings it closer to the
The
8,
9%,
9.
8-9, okay. Yeah, good point. Thank you.
Logically, 9% is better than.
Oh,
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. And the thing is I want to be careful not to, not to try and disguise it, but yet to make it real, in other words, if it is 12, because we've had a 3% new home growth, it actually equates to more like 9. So, that is being honest, that is being transparent.
And I think the nice thing is we have tangible things we can point to. We've done a lot with roads the last several years, and
Yeah.
there's things that we can say, this is what we're spending your
Right.
dollars on versus we're not just, sitting on them, where we're providing,
Well,
good
and-
service.
Okay, good point, because we have like 2 million in our road fund and we're not increasing our road fund for 27 because of that.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
Because we have some, capital items, and we're
Right.
trying to, obviously improve our, police needs the new software for their reporting records management system. And there's, obviously the finance software would be a nice thing
Yeah.
to do in the next couple few years. That could be, better reporting for the council and the citizens. So there's, different things that are driving the increase that I think will be beneficial in time. So.
anything else? So are we on the right track here? So we're good?
Yep.
I think the unknowns are the union contracts and then ultimately what we end up doing for increases for staff, other staff. So, all right. Anything else?
I guess, do you envision, would we need to bring this back for a brief discussion at like the August 17th for full council, or? do you
I think
we're-
we need to wait until the union
or do you wanna wait
contracts
till the
are in
union?
place so
Oh, okay.
that we know the numbers.
So it would, or.
I was going to say, likely the union contracts won't be in place before the prelim levies needed to be adopted. So so I think we have good placeholders in the budget that can incorporate those wages. Like I said, the police officer union, the wages, the personnel committee is recommending approval with what they've already discussed with me. The only piece out there is the insurance piece. So I just so you guys are clear as far as timeline goes, I don't think you're going to see all of the union contracts.
Well, then we
finalized.
don't need to do it on the 17th.
Yeah, I think we're shooting for the
So
prelim levy adoption on the 9th of September.
Okay.
But if there's something more we want to talk about, and, you know, if Kathleen's here on the 17th, I think she's going to be, if she wants to, you know, provide some input or something on the 17th, we have that kind of free meeting before we'd adopt it on the 9th.
Or we can adopt it on the second meeting in September too.
We could.
So, because I know we might have a pretty heavy schedule on the 17th. Or on, well,
Yeah, I think the 17th is and the 9th, but the prelim levies generally, we have it pretty much worked out by the time it gets to you
Right.
guys, so there isn't much there, so that item won't take as long as maybe some of the other ones you're thinking of.
Yeah, I guess tentatively, we could just plan on bringing that resolution to the September 9th with any further information or tweaks, but
I
it might stay
think so,
pretty
yeah.
standard to what you're seeing
Yeah.
tonight, or pretty close to what you're seeing.
yeah, and then we'll continue to work on it throughout September, October, November.
Because yeah, obviously, you know, the final budget, we've
Yeah.
had years where some years it stays the same, some years it's came down 1% or 2 or few or whatever, so
Yeah,
it just.
and we'll do a little more deep dive into it then, especially when we get closer, if that's okay. Okay, all right.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. I think that is staff reports then.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, maybe I'll give a brief update on just future agenda items. We're going to have a discussion at the work session about the ATV ordinance discussion, or that's what it'll be called, on the work session for the 17th. I will have a draft ordinance at that time and I'll probably put a placeholder on the business side, unless you don't want to see that on the business side and just keep it on the work session. But if you want, we could have the opportunity to adopt something on the 17th. I guess I'll look for direction on that. And then, as we just talked about, the 2027 preliminary levy adoption, we have slated for September 9th. So
Are we going to have any of the planning issues? Do you know, David? Are we going to bring, we don't know that yet?
For sure, one will be here.
Which one?
Kind of, the Segner property
Okay, the
would be here.
Segner?
Yep.
Okay,
Tentatively, the other one would likely be here as well.
it depends on the traffic study. Okay. Okay, so if the traffic study is done, so there's two developments. So the Bowl property, that came to the planning commission the end last Monday. And then there was some discussion regarding the ingress and egress on the road, from the road. So anyhow, they're doing a traffic study. If the traffic study is finished and then MnDOT has weighed in, then we can maybe have that on the 17th. If the traffic study isn't done and we don't have a recommendation or whatever resolution from MnDOT, we'll have to move it to the next one, right?
Likely. It's
Okay.
That we'll have to talk with the applicants, but yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
How do you arrange that, the traffic study? Who does that?
They've hired a consulting firm, the developer
A
has.
developer has to do that, yeah. I think is it SRF? You don't know?
They were working with them and nothing was finalized with them yet.
Okay, all right. And then the Sagner property is, would be a comp plan amendment.
Mhm.
So that was at the planning commission too, so that would be coming forward. Okay, I don't think there were too many issues on that one.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Can I bring up something, Jasper, on, with regard to the situation with the ATV and the UTVs? It specifically says in here, using it to go down to the lake and back. It should be just using it briefly for whatever reason. If you're not on a lake.
Right.
It's very specific about stating lake. I think we should scratch just
That'd be-
using it.
That would be fine.
Briefly.
And then they'll bring it back and we'll discuss it. Let's do that at the work session.
Sure.
Kind of go through it with a fine tooth comb, so to speak.
Yeah,
And
I'd
then-
like to have some input on that too.
But yeah, we'll want to have some more discussion on that. And if need be, and then if we can all figure it out at the work session, we can bring it back on the 17th. If not, it'll have to come back then on the 9th. So we're gonna do what we can.
No, I understand that, but I'm fielding so many phone calls and they wanted to come tonight and I said, wait till.
Yeah.
We don't need to come tonight. We're not having a work session, so.
Yeah. So if we can work out some kind of, maybe work on some maybe alternate wording versus lake, something else, keep lake in, we can
Just the
discuss.
not repetitive,
Yeah.
the short amount of time I think is helpful and
Sure.
I like that.
Yeah.
And the de minimis
Yeah.
use for those with smaller lots. I love that word.
Okay,
Thank you for that.
anything else then on the upcoming agenda?
No,
Okay, and then any other staff reports? Do you need somebody at the August planning commission meeting?
Someone, yep.
Okay, I can't go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or, yeah.
I did too.
I do have one more thing.
Oh,
Brian was in my ear and
Yeah.
I should have brought it up ahead of time, but the residents on water accounts should have either received or will be receiving their first monthly bill today or tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that.
I got mine last week.
Last week?
Yep.
Wow, okay.
Wow.
okay.
Yeah, so I think they went out on Thursday.
Well, yeah, or basically it's depending on if you view it online or if the printed copy, the company, InfoSend said they sent everything by late last week, mailed it out. So, depending on how you get it, whether it's electronic paper or both or whatever, you should have it. So,
So yeah, keep an eye out for that. We are, fielding quite a few calls about just questions. It's because of the overlap of the transition from monthly or quarterly to monthly. So there's, some lag in some of the PSN. That's the company that handles the payments. They posted the monthly bill before you actually got the paper one, just because that's how they work. So we're getting a lot of questions and the team is tracking all those questions and we can provide an update probably sometime here, maybe the end of August or in September to kind of just let you guys know how it's going. But it's daunting how many calls there have been. And we have a baseline for the quarterly bills. So, but hopefully this is the peak and then it'll just, trickle down and over the few coming months, it'll get to be more normal.
I think a lot of questions were just if the quarterly bill was due August 15th, and if they hadn't paid that, now they get your monthly bill. It's like, what's my previous balance? Well, it's just that it was 45 days
Kind
to
of,
pay. Now it's,
yeah.
15, 20 days to pay. So once we get past like that August 15th, 20th, it shouldn't, it's just those water, users are just on that,
Right,
getting their monthly bill. That should come
okay.
back down or whatever. So.
But, so we still need somebody for the 24th. Peter said he can do it,
Thank you.
okay? And is there a park commission meeting too then?
There would not be.
Okay, so just 6:30 for planning,
Correct.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, any other staff reports? Otherwise, are there council reports?
And for me.
Nope.
Well, just briefly, at the Sarah Pioneer Creek watershed, I thought there was something interesting. They said that the state agency, which they call Bowser, and I don't know what that stands for, but they've paused all the payouts on things to kind of review everything and make sure that, they're all that there isn't any fraud, I think is really what they're doing. So I was really pleased to hear that, at the department level that they're taking that seriously. So I just thought you'd be interested in that. And I think we hashed over the personnel committee pretty well. So don't need to go over that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So a couple of things, National Night Out is tomorrow. I will be joining Deputy Chief Cummings, right? Okay. Anybody else going out? It's fun.
I'll be at the Link Cove one.
Okay. And then also, I attended the town hall meeting that Commissioner Anderson held on the, 22nd of July or something like that. A few people were there. It was interesting. It was always fun to talk to people about Minnetrista. So, and then we also, Jasper and I, along with the Shorewood Mayor and Shorewood Administrator, along with Senator Ann Johnson Stewart and MnDOT, we're talking about the MnDOT corridor and funding. So we're about $11 million short on the funding to add all of the roundabouts that we would like to see on Highway 7. Having said that, I just want to make it clear, we weren't talking about moving the funding from, let's just say a roundabout in Shorewood to a roundabout in Minnetrista. That's not what we were talking about. We're talking about the timing as to when we could, when's the kind of drop dead date to get this additional funding? That was a big question that we had. And so we've got there's a grant application in to the Met Council for some of their tab money. And if we get that, that would be, they would let us know the end of this year. But then there's a matching fund, which we would hope that we could then get from the state, from their transportation dollars. And that's one of the things we were asking the senator about, and she thought that would be doable. And MnDOT thought it would be doable too. So we'll kind of keep you posted on that. But then with our discussions with the Bowl property, we're talking with MnDOT. This is a separate discussion now, talking with MnDOT about what would be the best strategy for Minnetrista for a roundabout or lights and that type of thing. That's why we're waiting on the transportation study that's being done by the Bowl property, and we're going to see what they have to say, and we'll see where we can put, where the best location would be for either a right now or future roundabout. So we'll come back with more information on that. So working on that. Right? Right?
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay. Anything else?
I was wondering, have we heard anything about the, is it the Bosma? What is the property?
That's the Bowl property.
Full property.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, I think she made, are you asking about the clean?
Oh, the cleanup.
Yeah, the cleanup.
That's, yeah,
Is that
Bosma. That's Bosma.
Yes, I can just give a brief update on this, and we're going to check in on the property in early September and then report back to city council. So we'll see what condition it is, if they got everything cleaned up like they said they would by then, and if they hadn't, then we'll have to reboot the conversation about abatement.
Good question.
Just another question, what's happening in Jennings Cove with that drilling the pipe to relieve the water flooding problems?
Madam Mayor, I can answer that question. So that work was completed a few months ago, and by all reports, everything's functioning well. So I haven't heard any complaints from the residents. So,
Yeah.
yay.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, Chief, I think we have a public safety meeting on the 5th.
We do.
Okay, right.
There's a if we're talking about meetings, we have a Mound Fire Advisory meeting on Thursday morning.
Okay,
So I'm sure at the next meeting, there'll be an update on that, and we should know the budget numbers more clearly then from them.
sounds good. Anything else? Otherwise, a motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved?
Thank you, Mr. Govern. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Lacy. All those in favor signify with aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Good ideas.